everyone. I'll start by reading an email to you. Hello, everyone. I know how anxious everyone is, and I'm so sorry this is a day late. We had a very difficult time selecting companies this year. Unfortunately, your company was not chosen this year. We had a record number of applications and only a limited amount of slots. I would highly encourage all of you to still attend the event. Simply go to our website, click on register, and you can purchase a founder ticket for $300, priced valid until 9/11. I don't know what that was. Tickets are running out and will not be available in a few weeks. We so appreciate you applying and wish you continued success. We will open apps for our 2024 event in late April. Thanks. So this was August 2023. In April of that year, we had developed the MVP for our pitch feedback app. And by June, we had actually formally incorporated our company. So at this point, we were about 2 months away from launching our beta, and that really put us about another month away from going to market as a company. So our vision was that we wanted to develop a new trust model for startup funding that would function by integrating the training, planning, operations, and funding into one platform that was used across the startup ecosystem. I had convinced my friends to invest $90,000 into our business, and I had taken a $200,000 line of credit, just so that we could have our team of 6 people bring Co-Founder OS to market. So I had enough money in the bank that could get our company to January, but my best case scenario was that we weren't going to market until November. So raising capital had to become my full-time job, because if I wasn't successful at it, I was gonna have to let my team go. I was gonna have to tell all of my friends that I lost their money, and then I still had a $200,000 loan that I had to repay. So like most founders, in that moment, I was literally all in on this business. And emails like this were the only response I could get. So let's take a look at what this email really says. So first bit, hello everyone. I know how anxious everyone is. I'm so sorry this is a day late. So right off the bat, this email came to me late, and it was a boilerplate email that wasn't even addressed to me. This is how we communicate to founders out there in the world. Then the next part, we had a very difficult time selecting companies this year. Unfortunately, your company was not chosen. We had a record number of applications and only a limited amount of slots. Okay, so that tells me right off the bat, this isn't just a no, this is a complete failure of a system that's overwhelmed by the volume of applications that are coming in and an inability to really even review them. So then the kicker was, I would highly encourage all of you to still attend the event. You can purchase a founder ticket for $300. Keep in mind, I was going to be broke in January, but that price was valid until 9/11. But tickets are running out and will only be available for a few weeks. So I remember thinking in that moment, I am desperate for capital. I thought this was a shoo-in, but I was just rejected. I wasn't given any path forward, no feedback, nothing. All they had to offer me was an invitation to become their customer. So I don't want to sound like a brat just because we weren't picked. This email just happens to be a great example of of the systems failure that entrepreneurs exist within all across America. So in our country, every year we have over 5 million people that try to start a business, but only 25,000 of them get venture capital, and half of that venture capital is deployed in California alone. So if we're going to fix this system, what we have to do is really understand what it's built on, and it's built on trust. So trust is something that we build every single day. Right? We're social creatures, so it's fundamental to how we interact. So when you get one person to trust you, then they can share that trust to someone else by vouching for you, and then that allows you to get a group of people together and you can collaborate and you can do all sorts of interesting things. We can also build trust in settings just like this, where someone like me can get up in front of you, I can convey an idea, right? And hopefully I can be convincing enough so that we develop some layer of trust between us. We don't quite have the same level of physical human interaction, so maybe that trust isn't as deep. But if we continue to follow through, this becomes our first order of trust scaling. But it's still limited by what we can do through these human interactions, right? So credentials are the technology that we have developed so that we can scale trust relationships beyond human networks. We use them every single day. So we use them for identification. If you think about things like your passport or your login to a website, we use them for standards verification. So think about your driver's license. You had to prove that you were able to drive that car safely. Your academic degree or a professional certification. Credentials are institutionally granted verifications that a minimum standard has been demonstrated so that you can establish trust. And so we're relying on these institutions to create this credential that creates trust then. And the best credentialing systems, they provide a degree of transparency so that people can understand and navigate the requirements so that they can then earn that credential. So for startups though, there's really two main pathways to access capital, and each has its own way of verifying founder credibility and establishing trust. So first, let's look at banks. I think everybody here generally knows banks provide debt-based financing. So they give you a certain amount of money, and over time you pay that back with interest. The way they determine whether someone's a credible risk is really centered around two things. First, your credit history. So that's your record of how well you're able to make your payments on time. The second is what are the total assets that you have available? So basically, what they're trying to measure is if you don't make your payments on time, do you have enough other stuff that they can sell so that they can get their money back? Now, if you've ever faced financial difficulties or if you lack wealth, then you're really going to struggle to access banks to finance your business. And if you're getting a loan for a business, especially most of the SBA loans, you have to be in business for 2 years before you can access that. And so it's not even eligible for early stage founders. So simply put, if you don't have assets or history, you're locked out. Now let's look at venture capital. So venture capital, we heard in the earlier panel, it provides high risk capital. The vast majority of the investments fail, right? So what they're looking for is a few businesses that will really make up the difference within this. And so getting a share of your profits each year through dividends isn't really enough to make a venture capital investment work. The only way VC gets returns is through the exit of a company. And an exit either means that your company has been sold or it went public. So that means as a byproduct, venture capital has to concentrate in markets where capital, expertise, and infrastructure exist to further those outcomes because that's what it exists to do. Now, trust within venture capital is really built on what's called actor network theory. And so actor network theory really in its most simple form is that same human to human interaction that we talked about for building trust. Now, in practice, what it means is credibility comes from networks. And so if you look at this chart, you can see if you happen to come through an entrepreneur support organization or an incubator where you're able to have a trusted connection to that venture capitalist, then they're more likely to believe in you and you'll have credibility so that you have a decent odds of raising capital. But if you don't get that trusted connection, then access to capital becomes very difficult. So it's not that investors aren't interested in funding your company, it's that we lack a scalable means of conveying trust. So in short, what we lack is a recognized credential. And that's what Make Startups set out to create. So we partner with capital providers and entrepreneur support organizations to establish data measurement and assessment standards in early stage startups so that they can build founder credibility and ease access to capital. But founders are busy. Like I said, we're all in when we're getting our business started. So nobody has the time to create a parallel academic examination process without distracting founders from the realities of getting their business off the ground and getting revenue so that they can make payroll. So instead, we developed an integrated applied skills assessment within the core business planning process. These assessments act like AI-driven workshops that stress test a business across 8 core parameters that we've refined over 15 years. By focusing on this underlying logic for how a business comes together, we've been able to build independent data models for every single startup that goes through our software platform and provide structured real-time feedback across any industry sector. So while our initial models were entirely built by our team and partner, to date, we've been able to perform over 11,000 founder evaluations. Over 70% of founders have reported revenue growth within 90 days after completing a credential. And we've also documented a 4-to-1 match of private dollars to public dollars, which means that for every $1,000 that the public sector invests in entrepreneurship training, we've been able to deploy $4,000 in startup capital to the actual businesses underneath the hood. And over time, what we're doing is we're able to apply how this performance works through machine learning so that we can further and further refine the model. So what's been great is that we actually also see how AI is helping overcome the same bias that we've been talking about within these networks. And so to test this, we actually ran an experiment where we had a pitch contest and we had AI score every single one of the applications for that pitch contest. Now, we then also had the group of investors provide their own scores for how they wanted to select founders to go on stage. So the investors ultimately overruled the AI in half of the cases, and we allowed all of those founders to come on stage. Now, what happened as a byproduct of this is every single person that won the competition, we had 4 winners out of 10, were the AI selected finalists. Not a single finalist from the human selected panel made it to that stage. So pretty crazy, right? So based on that, those same group of investors recently launched the first in-platform fund so that they're investing into founders based entirely on credential attainment. So while we've made progress in growing our credentials, we continue to work towards how we can improve that. But the thing that's been wonderful is seeing how the founder experience has now changed from that email that I got 3 years ago. So today we can score over 600 applications in just 15 minutes. So everyone's capable of providing a timely response. Regardless of whether an application is accepted or rejected, it includes a detailed response on its strengths and its areas for improvement. From there, there's clear pathways that are identified for either self-paced improvement or enrollment in a formal program with an entrepreneurial support organization. And if you scan this QR code, you can try it out. But more importantly, thanks to our partnership with Moonshot, we can offer everybody here access to a free 3-month virtual incubator program, where you can also participate in a study that we're doing with Harvard Business School, which will build the research foundation so that we can prove credentialing works. So when you start a business, you're putting literally everything on the line to pursue your dreams. And regardless of whether your business is ready for funding or not, one thing remains true, right? Your dreams deserve a response. Thank you.